I don't know why that morning stuck with me. Maybe because it felt so normal at first, that kind of boring, everyday normal you start taking for granted in a long relationship. Alarm went off at 6:30 and I hit snooze twice before dragging myself out of bed. Jenna was already in the kitchen, making coffee like she always did, humming something off-key and random. We'd had one of those nights before, the kind where neither of us talked much but nothing was wrong enough to fight about. Just quiet. Familiar. Tired. I didn't expect anything to be different that day. Definitely not the shirt. I found it folded neatly in the laundry basket, a white button-up I only wore for work meetings, pressed and crisp like she always made sure it was. Jenna was meticulous about laundry. It was her thing. Said it calmed her. She hated wrinkles and always folded everything military style. You could bounce a quarter off our bedsheets. I didn't even notice the stain at first. It was only when I was putting it on, reaching to fasten the second button, that I saw it right there on the inside of the collar. A smear. Soft, smudged, almost easy to miss if you weren't looking for it. But once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. Lipstick. Some muted plum shade. Not bright red. Not pink. Not any color I'd seen on Jenna's lips in all the years we'd been together. I stared at it for a full 30 seconds before doing anything. My brain tried to come up with reasons. I tried to make it innocent. Maybe it was hers. Maybe it got on the shirt somehow, like she'd leaned in for a hug after putting some on and didn't realize. But it didn't add up. Because Jenna didn't wear lipstick like that. And definitely not during the week. She barely wore makeup outside of special events, and when she did, it was always some neutral gloss or the same matte nude she'd had since college. I knew her habits like clockwork. That shade wasn't hers. And neither was the scent. The collar smelled like perfume, something subtle but expensive. Lightly floral, but not synthetic like the stuff from the Dr. store. This had body to it. Real depth. It hit me like a memory I couldn't place. And the worst part? It wasn't Jenna. I would have known if it was. Her scent was cedar and sandalwood and a hint of something spicy. She always said she hated smelling too sweet. This perfume was soft. Almost an asterisk mate. That's when my chest tightened and my stomach started doing the slow, sickening flip. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I really didn't. But the lipstick, the perfume, the way it was hidden just enough to be missed, it wasn't random. It didn't feel like a fluke. I walked out of the bedroom, shirt in hand. She was standing by the stove, stirring oatmeal like it was any other day. She didn't look up right away. The sun was coming through the window, hitting the side of her face just right, like a scene from one of those quiet indie movies we used to watch when we were still dating. I almost didn't say anything. But I had to. Hey, I said, trying to keep it casual. This was in the clean laundry. You start wearing lipstick like this. She turned to me, eyes flicking to the collar. 1 beat. 2. Then she smiled. Not big. Not surprised. Just steady. Oh, that, she said, letting out a soft laugh. I must have leaned on someone's shoulder or something at the office. You know how that goes. Dry cleaning mishaps. Her voice didn't even waver. Not a single crack. Just smooth and light, like she'd been preparing for it. I didn't know what I expected. Panic? Guilt? Some flicker of recognition that I wasn't buying it? But she just walked over, took the shirt from my hands, and held it up to the light. Huh. That's weird. I'll rewash it. Then she kissed me on the cheek like nothing happened and turned back to the stove. And that was it. I didn't push. I didn't ask again. I stood there for a long second, feeling the floor tilt under my feet like I was suddenly in the wrong place at the wrong time in my own home. It was the ease of the lie that got me. The way it didn't rattle her, didn't faze her. It didn't feel like someone caught off guard. It felt like someone who had been here before. And that scared the hell out of me. I went about my day pretending I believed her. I wore a different shirt. I left the house on time. Smiled through meetings. Answered emails. But in the back of my head, something was changing. Quietly. Firmly. Jenna and I had been married almost 5 years. Dated 3 before that. We'd built a life together, the kind people envied. 2 good jobs, no kids yet, nice house on a tree-lined street with a lemon tree in the backyard that never bore fruit but looked good in the spring. We cooked on Sundays. Did yoga in the mornings. She remembered my mom's birthday without reminders. I made her tea when she was sick and picked up her favorite weird ice cream when she had a rough day. We were solid. Or so I thought. But that stain, that stupid, quiet little smear of lipstick, changed everything. Not just because of what it might mean, but because of what it revealed. I started replaying things in my head that night. Not just the shirt. Everything. The late-night meetings that went later than usual. The way she started sleeping with her phone face down. The nights she said she was too tired for *Macy, how I told myself it was just stress. Her sudden obsession with new perfume samples despite always saying she hated change. I remembered how she stopped asking about my day. How she stopped listening when I talked about work. I remembered one night, maybe a few months back, when she said, "Do you ever feel like we're just roommates who sleep in the same bed?" and laughed like it was a joke. I laughed too. But maybe it wasn't a joke. Maybe it was a warning. I lay in bed next to her that night, staring at the ceiling, listening to her breath steady into sleep. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. But the lie, that easy, graceful lie, had lodged itself into my chest like a splinter. Small but sharp. I couldn't ignore it. I couldn't unhear it. I turned my head and looked at her. And I realized, maybe for the first time, that I didn't recognize her. They say hindsight's 20/20, but that's a damn lie. Hindsight is a spotlight you can't turn off. It burns through every memory, every moment you thought was normal, and shows you exactly how blind you were. It doesn't clarify. It indicts. In the days after the shirt incident, I tried to shove it aside. Really, I did. I went to work. I took care of the yard. I answered emails. I watched the shows we always watched. But every quiet moment stretched long and strange, like something important was missing, or maybe like something toxic had been quietly growing, and now I could finally smell the rot. It started small. Jenna made an offhand comment about needing to work late again, and instead of brushing it off, I felt it like a needle in my skin. Then came the memories, little flickers at first, then sharper, more frequent. Times I should have asked more questions but didn't. Times I noticed something off but told myself I was just being paranoid. Times she turned her phone screen away when I passed by. The way she used to smile when she got a message, then started hiding that smile. How I thought it was cute when she said, "Ugh, work group chats again," and turned her phone face down. I remembered how she used to talk to me about everything, even things I didn't care about, like her weird coworker who collected spoons or the lady in accounting with the laugh like a squeaky toy. Somewhere along the way, that stopped. I hadn't noticed it when it happened, but now? It was like a whole wing of our relationship had just gone dark without me realizing the lights were out. What had once looked like stress from her promotion now felt like emotional distance dressed up as ambition. There were no more "you won't believe what happened at work" stories. Just silence. Then excuses. I started mentally revisiting those girls' nights she'd had over the past year. I could count them now, which was funny because back then I didn't even think to. She didn't post about them. No pictures. No tags. Just came home late, always smelling like that same unfamiliar perfume, always saying you'd hate it, loud music, overpriced drinks, before disappearing into the bathroom and locking the door. She'd wash her face and brush her teeth before even saying goodnight. I used to think that was sweet, considerate. Now it just felt like erasing evidence. I started noticing her patterns. Or maybe I finally let myself notice. The text messages that made her smile while she cooked, only for her to set the phone down quickly when I walked in. The way she laughed differently on certain calls, breathier, lighter, not the way she laughed with me. That particular tone that didn't sound like colleague or friend. I knew that tone. I'd once been the man who caused it. Maybe the worst part was realizing I hadn't just missed it, I'd ignored it. I remembered last Christmas when she said she was too tired to go to my parents' place, said her stomach was acting up. I went alone. Found out later she'd gone out for drinks with a few people from work. She said it was last minute. I didn't press. I wanted to believe her. That was always my weakness. I wanted the story that made me feel safe, not the one that made sense. Now every memory had teeth. I kept going back, running my finger over every little crack, every seam that had always been there. And I started seeing the pattern. She hadn't changed suddenly. It had been gradual, so gradual that I didn't notice the house growing cold until it was winter inside. One night I came home late, a legitimate late night at the office. When I walked in, I could hear her on the phone, laughing in the bedroom. She didn't hear me. I froze in the hallway and listened. She wasn't talking to her mom, not with that tone. She wasn't talking to any of her girlfriends either. There was no "oh my God" or "you'll never believe this." No. This laugh was private. Soft. Personal. She was curled into it. Then the silence, the kind that falls right after you say something you don't want anyone else to hear. I backed away from the door and made just enough noise with my keys that she'd hear. A few seconds later, she called out, "Hey babe, you're home." I walked in and saw her on the bed, phone already on the nightstand, smile already in place. "Just talking to Sarah," she said. "She's going through it again with that guy." I nodded. "Everything okay?" "Yeah. Just girl stuff. You know." "No. I didn't. Not anymore." That night, I stared at the ceiling for hours while she slept next to me, perfectly peaceful. It felt like being in bed with a stranger wearing my wife's face. So I did something I hadn't done before. I started writing things down. Every shift, every odd moment, every lie wrapped in casual. It felt pathetic at first, like I was some conspiracy theorist trying to pin red string to the corkboard in my brain. But it helped. Helped me stop second-guessing myself. Helped me see the picture. There was the weekend she said she was visiting her sister in Napa, but I remembered her sister being out of town for a wedding. There was the time she claimed her phone died during a long team dinner, but the location app showed she was across town from the restaurant. She always had a backup explanation. Always smooth, always ready, and I always gave her the benefit of the doubt like a fool. Like a man who still thought he was loved the way he used to be. I kept hoping I was wrong. That maybe I was just unraveling, imagining betrayal where there was just burnout or distance. But deep down I already knew. And then came the dream. A stupid dream, but vivid. In it, she was walking ahead of me down a beach. I was trying to catch up, calling her name, but every time I got close, she was further away. She kept turning, smiling that same warm smile she used to give me when we were first dating. But the closer I got, the less her face looked like her and more like someone else entirely. The last time she turned, I saw that it wasn't Jenna anymore. Just someone wearing her skin. I woke up in a sweat, heart pounding, disoriented in the dark room we once called ours. That morning, she made me coffee. I looked at her, standing in her robe, humming off key again like nothing had changed, and it hit me she wasn't mine anymore. Maybe she hadn't been for a long time. I just hadn't noticed. Or maybe I had. But noticing meant losing her. And I wasn't ready. Not then. The moment it happened, there wasn't a sound. No gasp. No rage. No yelling. Just me sitting in our living room on a Thursday night, staring at a laptop screen I wasn't even supposed to be looking at. She'd left it open on the kitchen counter, something she rarely did. Jenna was usually careful. Her screens were always closed, her phone face down, her tabs cleared like she didn't want the air itself to see what she was doing. But that night she slipped. Maybe she was distracted, maybe she thought I'd already gone to bed. Either way, I walked into the kitchen to grab a glass of water, and there it was, her laptop glowing quietly in the dark, half-folded but still on, an open tab sitting like an unlocked door. I don't know why I looked. Maybe because everything in me had been screaming for weeks. Maybe because part of me needed to be wrong, needed to confirm I was just paranoid. But the other part, the quiet, cold part, knew exactly what I was about to find. And it was done hoping. The tab was just a messaging app. Something simple built into her email. And I almost didn't see it at first, the conversation thread blended in with the rest. It didn't have hearts or kissy faces or anything that screamed affair. Just a short back and forth with someone named Ty. That's all it said. No last name. No photo. Just Ty. But it was enough. I clicked. TY, can't stop thinking about last Tuesday. TY, that dress. That smile. Jesus. TY, same time next week? You free? Jenna, can't wait. I'll make up something. TY, God, I miss you already. Jenna, same. I hate lying, but it's worth it. It was just sitting there. Casual. Clean. Like they were talking about coffee, not betrayal. My hands started shaking, not out of rage, but something worse. That deep, hollow stillness that comes when you realize a part of your life has already been amputated and you were too numb to feel the cut. She said she hated lying. But she didn't stop. She made it sound noble, like deception was a burden she bore for love. But it wasn't love. It was convenience. It was adrenaline wrapped in fantasy. And I was the background, the guy paying the mortgage while she played pretend in some Tuesday night romance that didn't have to deal with taxes or laundry or actual commitment. The night in question, the last Tuesday, she told me she was going out with old college friends. Girls catch up, she said, curling her hair like she hadn't for me in months. I remember noticing it but didn't say anything. I even told her to have fun. She kissed me on the cheek and walked out the door wearing that black dress she used to save for special events. I sat on the couch watching a documentary I didn't care about, thinking about how I should have planned a surprise date night instead. I thought it was my fault we were drifting. I thought I was the problem. Turns out I was just the placeholder. I sat down at the kitchen table and scrolled back through the conversation. It wasn't long and it wasn't filled with details. They were careful. No last names. No addresses. But they weren't careful enough. A week before that, there was a line that gutted me. TY, you're all I think about. Jenna, me too. You're the first thing I want every morning. First thing. Every morning. Not the husband who brought her coffee. Not the man who made her breakfast and asked about her deadlines. Some guy named Ty. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table or throw the laptop or call her right that second and make her look me in the eye and explain what the hell she was doing, but I didn't. I didn't say a word. I just closed the screen. Quietly. Deliberately. Like a door I knew I'd never open again. When she came home that night, I was already in bed, lights off, pretending to sleep. She slid under the covers next to me, careful not to make noise. I could smell that perfume again, the one I didn't recognize. It clung to her like a memory I didn't belong to. She whispered, "Sorry I'm late," and kissed my shoulder. I didn't move. I didn't speak. That was the moment it ended, not with a fight, not with a confession, but with the silence of a man who had seen the truth and chosen, for now, to keep it close. I needed time. Space. I needed to understand what came next before I said anything. The next morning, I woke before her. She was curled toward me, breathing evenly like someone who hadn't done anything wrong. That was the part one couldn't shake, how easy it was for her. How at peace she seemed. I left early, said I had a meeting. I didn't. I just drove around town for hours, aimlessly, the radio off, phone on silent, trying to breathe through the ache in my chest. It wasn't even about Ty, whoever he was. It wasn't about the cheating itself. It was about what it meant. She had created a whole other version of herself, and I wasn't invited. She'd written me out of the narrative. And the scariest part? She did it so well. Later that week, I checked again, not the messages, but the laptop. She'd deleted the thread. Erased it like it never happened. But I wasn't stupid. I'd already taken photos. Saved *TS to a folder I titled Closure, though I wasn't even sure what that meant anymore. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. I didn't talk to friends or family. I didn't rage or spiral. I just became, still, numb. I went through the motions. I made dinner. I took out the trash. I asked her how her day was. She smiled and gave vague answers, then went back to scrolling her phone, probably texting him. The worst betrayals aren't loud. They don't shatter windows or kick down doors. They slip in through the cracks. They make you question your sanity. And then, when the truth is finally undeniable, it doesn't come with relief, it comes with mourning. Because she didn't just cheat on me. She buried us. And the funeral had already happened. I just hadn't realized I was the one in the casket. You'd think that after discovering what I did, the next step would be an explosion, yelling, confrontation, some kind of dramatic unraveling. But that's not what happened. There were no shouting matches. No ultimatums. No slammed doors. What happened instead was quiet. Deliberate. A shift so subtle that if you weren't looking for it, you might not notice. But I noticed. Because I was the one making it. I didn't leave right away. I didn't pack a bag or storm out or throw her lies in her face. I didn't tell her I knew. I didn't ask questions. I didn't say anything at all. I just stopped being. Not in the way people stop living, more like I stopped participating. I became a ghost in my own life, floating through rooms I used to belong to. At first, she didn't notice. That's the part that hurt the most. She went about her days like always, coffee in the morning, Zoom meetings in the afternoon, some casual, "How was your day?" in the evening. But my answers got shorter. My tone went flat. I stopped volunteering stories, stopped asking about hers. I stopped trying. And still, nothing. One night, we were watching a show together on the couch, some series we'd been binging, something she loved and I tolerated, and I remember looking over at her, laughing at something on screen, completely unaware that I hadn't even cracked a smile. That I hadn't touched her. That I was sitting on the far end of the sofa, a throw pillow between us like a border checkpoint. She didn't reach for me. Didn't notice the space. Didn't ask why my laughs had dried up. I started sleeping on the edge of the bed, facing away. When she reached for me in the dark, I stayed still. Not pulling away, that would have been too obvious. I just didn't move. Like maybe I was asleep. Like maybe I was somewhere else entirely. Eventually, she stopped reaching. That's when I knew something in her felt it too, the absence, the weight of it. But still, she said nothing. Maybe she thought it would pass. Maybe she thought I was in a funk. Or maybe, and this is the theory that kept me awake the most, she didn't care to fix it. She cooked dinner a few times that week. She never cooked. Always said she was too tired, that I was better at it anyway. But now she was suddenly trying, making dishes I liked, lighting a candle on the table like we were dating again. The effort was there, technically. But it came late. And it came without words. One night she made lemon pasta, my favorite, and placed it in front of me with a smile so practiced it didn't even reach her eyes. I thanked her. Ate half. Told her I wasn't hungry. She looked hurt but didn't say anything. Just cleared the plates and went upstairs. I didn't follow. That became the rhythm. I'd come home from work, not hello, disappear into the guest room under the excuse of needing quiet to focus. She'd tap on the door sometimes, ask if I wanted tea or if I was okay. I'd say I'm fine without looking up. And then I'd stay in there, headphones on, eyes on a screen, heart somewhere else entirely. She began to hesitate before saying goodnight. I noticed that too. The little pause in the hallway, like she was deciding whether or not to knock. Sometimes she did. Sometimes she didn't. Either way, I didn't open the door. I couldn't. Not because I didn't want. A part of me still ached for her, but because I was afraid. Afraid that if I spoke, it would all come spilling out. That I'd shout or cry or beg for answers. And I didn't want to give her that. I didn't want to give her the power to hurt me again. So instead, I chose silence. It became my armor. My only control. One night, about a week after I'd seen the messages, she came into the room holding a photo album. One of the old ones back when we still printed things. She sat on the edge of the guest bed and opened it to a page with a picture of us on our anniversary trip to Oregon. I remember that trip. The forest trails. The cabin with no Wi-Fi. The bottle of wine we never finished. The way she laughed when I tripped over a root trying to propose a second toast. She placed the album in my lap. Remember this? She asked. I nodded, but I didn't smile. Didn't touch the page. It feels like forever ago, she said quietly. I wanted to scream because it was. I wanted to throw the album across the room and say, don't you dare try to rewind to the good parts like the damage didn't happen. But I didn't. I just closed the album gently and placed it on the nightstand. I'm tired, I said. Her face fell. She stood slowly, took the album with her, and walked out without another word. The next morning, she made my coffee. Left it on the kitchen counter like usual. But this time, there was a sticky note under the mug. It just said, I miss us. 4 words. That was it. No apology. No explanation. Just nostalgia in Sharpie. I stared at it for a long time before crumpling it and throwing it away. Not because I didn't miss us too, but because she was the reason us didn't exist anymore. I don't know how long we lived like that, coexisting but not really connected. A week? 2? Maybe longer. Tom stopped feeling linear. Everything blurred. The house was quiet all the time now, like it was grieving too. I stopped noticing when she left. When she came home. I heard her moving around, felt her presence, but I didn't acknowledge it. She started spending more time out. Running errands. Seeing friends. The word meant nothing to me anymore. Everyone in her life felt like a shadow. I didn't know what was real and what was another carefully constructed lie. And I didn't ask. Because I was done chasing the truth. She tried again one Sunday. Made breakfast. Eggs, toast, even fresh fruit. I came downstairs and saw the table set, a single flower in a glass. She was wearing that same old sweater I'd bought her 3 birthdays ago, the one with the frayed sleeves and the little bleach stain near the collar. She looked like the woman I used to know. She smiled. Sit, she said. Eat with me. I stood there for a long time. Part of me wanted to. Part of me desperately wanted to go back. To pretend we could reset. But the larger part, the part that had seen the messages, the part that lived with silence like a second skin, knew better. I already ate, I lied. Her smile wavered. Oh. Okay. She sat down anyway. Ate alone. Chewed slowly. Stared out the window like she was waiting for someone who wasn't coming. And maybe she was. That afternoon I packed a bag. Just a few things. Basics. Enough for a few days. I didn't say where I was going. I didn't even write a note. I just grabbed my keys and left while she was in the shower, the sound of the water covering the sound of the front door closing behind me. I didn't go far. Just to a small rental outside the city, a trailer near a lake. Nothing fancy. No Wi-Fi. Just quiet. But a different kind of quiet. Not heavy. Not tense. Just still. I sat there on that first night, watching the moon reflect off the water, and for the first time in weeks, I breathed without pain. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just exhaled. That was the shift. Not an end. But the beginning of distance. The kind that builds like sediment quietly, steadily, until it forms a wall no one can see over. I never told her where I went that first time. She didn't ask. Or if she did, it wasn't to my face. Maybe she assumed I was staying with a friend. Maybe she thought it was work-related. Or maybe, and I think this is closer to the truth, she knew better than to ask, because asking would force the question neither of us wanted to answer. What are we even doing anymore? I stayed gone for 2 days. No text. No call. No explanation. And when I came back, it was like I'd only stepped out for milk. She was in the kitchen, hair pulled back, laptop open, phone face down beside her. She looked up when I walked in but didn't say anything. Neither did I. I dropped my keys in the bowl, walked past her, and took a long shower. That became the new rhythm. Disappear. Return. Be polite. Be distant. Repeat. I didn't tell her when I was leaving. I didn't say when I'd be back. And each time I stayed a little longer. At first it was just the 2 days. Then 3. Then a full week. I had the trailer now signed a short-term rental, cash under the table. It wasn't much, but it was mine. It had a stovetop, a bed that didn't sag, and a front porch that overlooked nothing but trees. No wedding photos. No ghost of what used to be. Just stillness. And in that stillness I remembered how to breathe. When I came back, I didn't act angry. I didn't act hurt. I didn't act anything. I was civil, like a guest in a house I didn't recognize. I took off my shoes at the door. I cleaned up after myself. I responded when spoken to, short and dry, the way you might talk to a stranger on a flight. And somehow that seemed to scare her more than yelling ever could. She tried to re-establish routine. I noticed it in the little things. She started waking up when I did, even though she used to sleep in. She'd dress a little nicer on my return days, even put on lipstick once, though not that shade. Never that shade. She'd suggest making dinner together, or a movie night, or ask if I wanted to go for a walk like we used to. I always said no. Not cruelly. Not bitterly. Just honestly. The silence between us had stopped being awkward. It had become normal. A kind of truce neither of us had signed, but both of us obeyed. She didn't try to touch me anymore. Not when I left, not when I came back. Once she reached for my hand while we were both in the pantry, and I flinched, not on purpose, just instinct. That tiny recoil said everything. And her face told me she felt it too. At some point, she started leaving notes. Little ones. A post-it on the bathroom mirror that said, "Drive safe today." A folded scrap of paper in the pocket of my jeans that said, "I miss how we used to laugh." A longer one, taped to the fridge, full of memories, our first apartment, the broken heater, that time we got caught in the rain and didn't run. I read them all. I kept some. Threw out others. But I never responded. Because none of it came with accountability. Only nostalgia. And nostalgia doesn't heal wounds. It just reminds you of who you used to be before the bleeding started. She cooked more. Cleaned more. Played my favorite music while I was home. All of it felt like bait. Like she was trying to rebuild a house that was already in ashes. And maybe she thought if she swept hard enough, I'd forget the fire. But I wasn't angry anymore. That's what confused her. I wasn't punishing her. I wasn't trying to make her hurt. I was just done. One evening, she made this big dinner, candles, real plates, even that old playlist she used to put on during wine nights. She wore a black dress I hadn't seen in years. Not the one from the night of the lie. A different one. Softer. Familiar. Her hair was down. She tried. I came home, saw the whole setup, and felt nothing. I sat down. I thanked her. Was polite. And when she asked if I wanted to stay in the master that night instead of the guest room, I said, "I don't think that's a good idea." She nodded. Her eyes were glassy, but she didn't cry. Not then. She just cleaned up quietly, humming under her breath like a nervous habit. That was the last time she tried something big. After that, her efforts got smaller. A favorite snack on the counter. A fresh towel left folded on my bed. A candle lit before I got home. None of it matched the rhythm we used to have. She was chasing a version of me that no longer existed, one that wanted to be chosen again. But I didn't. Her rhythm used to shape our whole life. The routines, the Sunday meal prep, the workout schedules, the weekend getaways booked 3 months in advance. She ran our world on a clock that ticked in her favor. But now that rhythm was gone, and what replaced it wasn't hers. It was mine. When I left, I didn't tell her how long I'd be gone. When I returned, I didn't tell her why. And somewhere in that pattern, she stopped being the center. Once, she asked, "Do you still love me?" I was standing in the hallway, jacket halfway on. I froze, looked at her. "I don't know," I said. And that was the truth. I didn't know. Maybe I still did in some buried, broken way. But love without trust is a haunted house. It looks whole until you try to live in it. Then every sound is a warning. Every silence a scream. Another time, she caught me packing before a long stretch away. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes red. "I feel like I'm losing you," she said. "You're not losing me," I replied. "You already lost me. This is just the echo." She didn't answer, just turned and walked away. When I drove back to the trailer that night, I rolled the windows down for the first time in months. Let the wind hit my face. The air was cold, clean. I didn't listen to music. Didn't need to. The silence was enough. It wasn't the heavy kind anymore. It was mine. Out at the trailer, I started writing again. Nothing serious. Just thoughts. Fragments. Pieces of who I was becoming. I wrote about the stillness. About the way the birds sounded at sunrise. About how I no longer checked my phone waiting for her texts. How it felt both strange and freeing to fall asleep without worrying where she was, what she was doing, or who she might be lying to. I didn't hate her. Let me say that clearly. I didn't hate Jenna. Pitied her. I mourned her. I missed the version of her that existed before the deception. But I wasn't interested in salvaging what she broke. Not anymore, because trust doesn't die all at once. It bleeds out slowly, drip by drip, lie by lie, until one day, you look at the person you swore to love forever and realize you've already let go. And they never even noticed. She noticed the silence, finally. Not the kind between sentences, but the kind that stretches across weeks. I was showing up less, coming back colder, and something in her cracked. She started reaching out. Texts filled with half-truths and nostalgia, like memories could undo reality. She called friends, told them she was losing me, but no one rushed to her side. They remembered her eye rolls, her excuses, the way she'd slowly pushed me out. I wasn't angry anymore, just gone. She said, "I miss who we were." I said, "I don't think we ever were who you think we were." I left on a Thursday, quiet. No note, no last words. Just a small box of books and my backpack. She was at the kitchen table, tears in her eyes, hands trembling like she wanted to stop me, but she didn't. And I didn't offer comfort. No drama, no shouting, just peace. That's what real endings look like, not fire, but ash. She wasn't left alone. She was left with the truth. I had stopped choosing her. And when someone stops choosing you, they don't slam the door. They just never look back.